Welcome to another summer, another epic summer vacation. My name is Tina. Follow along for more. Started the morning by heading up the interstate towards Warner Robins. Made a quick stop at Buc-ee's because it's right across the street from the van service that picked me up and took me straight to the airport. Once I got to the airport, it was pretty easy peasy. Got through security. Ended up having time to get lunch. I got a wrap and some potato chips. And then I was sitting at my gate for an hour. What I thought was my gate. Turns out they changed it to a different gate, but thankfully I had enough time to get there. And the flight itself was pretty good. There were no issues, complications. Didn't really feel like it was a 5-hour flight, and maybe that's just because I've done a couple of 10-hour flights at this point, so 5 feels like nothing. Once I got to LAX, I ended up getting some Starbucks and waited for my flight to Australia. I was so over it, so tired at this point. But once we got on the plane, my seat was really spacious. I did pay to have a spacious environment and a cozy service, but we got a hot towel. Dinner was a salad, rigatoni, and these puff pastry desserts. And then the flight itself was pretty good. There was a little turbulence. We even got a pizza twist as a snack. And then breakfast was eggs and potatoes and some fruit. And then we got this amenity kit. We got some slippers and some headphones. And then the amenity kit itself had a toothbrush and toothpaste, socks, lotion, and an eye mask. Once we got to Sydney, getting through security and customs was pretty easy. Didn't have any issues. I got on a train and headed to my hostel, but it was too early to check in because it was like 7 in the morning. So I went straight to the Opera House and I enjoyed the views there. And then I walked to the Harbor Bridge. These are the stairs going up to the bridge. I walked across the bridge and I got to see the sights from up on top of the bridge, and they were really good sights. It's very pretty. After I walked across the bridge, I went to Luna Park, which was kind of disappointing, and probably because it's winter, so really nothing was open at this point. But then I decided that I was not walking all the way back. I ended up taking the ferry, which took about 5 minutes compared to the hour and a half that I had walked all the way from the Opera House. I ended up getting a Toasty and a Frosted Sprite from McDonald's for lunch. This was my second full day in Sydney, and I really was not feeling good. I wasn't sure if I was even going to make it through the morning, but I ended up heading down to Circular Quay. I was a little late on time, so I did end up going to McDonald's to get a Toasty and a coffee. I ended up hopping on the big bus and took about an hour and a half tour driving around town just to see all of the major touristy sites. It really did give a lot of information and provided me with a guide for what I wanted to do the next day because I didn't have any concrete plans for that day. I also had a buffet lunch cruise, which was very interesting. I don't know that I've ever done a buffet lunch cruise before, but it was very informative. And while the bus was a good way to view the town by land, the cruise was really great to see it by water. But this was the food and the dessert. It was all so yummy, and I really loved getting to eat and see the sights at the same time. I also enjoyed getting a comprehensive view of the harbor itself. It was all just really pretty. And then there was this rolling cloud that was really unique. I'm looking forward to the things that I have planned for tomorrow based on what I saw today. Good morning. It is 8:30 a.m. on June 5th, which is a Wednesday. I think back home it's 6:30 p.m. on June 4th. But anyway, the days and times have sort of been running together. The first day I was here, I got to the hotel at like 8:30 a.m., so it was about the same time it is now, and it was way too early for me to check in, so I just dropped off my bags and I went down to see the Opera House because that was the thing that I wanted to do the most. I ended up walking across the bridge, the Sydney Harbor Bridge, and by the time I got back to my hotel, it was like 1 p.m.-ish, and it was still too early for me to check in, so I sat on a couch and tried not to fall asleep. By the time I was able to check in and got to my room, I got unpacked, ready for the next day, got my clothes out, and then I went to sleep. And I slept for 12 hours. And so I woke up around 2 a.m. and I was awake until 3 a.m. At that point, because I felt really bad and I was tired, I ended up taking a Benadryl, which helped. And then when I woke up again, it was 7 a.m., 7:30 a.m., something like that. And I had to take some allergy relief and some pain reliever because I felt so terrible. Thankfully today, I feel a lot better and I am excited to do some things today. I think on the agenda I have the wildlife zoo and the Sydney Tower, I think. And then I want to go to Bondi Beach, so that's a hopeful. But anyway, are all of these things a result of jet lag? I think probably it is. I was really hoping that I wouldn't have jet lag because I was going westward and it's not supposed to be as bad, but I feel like it was pretty bad. And if that wasn't very bad, then I can only imagine what going the opposite direction would have done to me. I probably would have been down for a lot longer than I was. Today is my second full day in Sydney, and I stopped for breakfast at this cute cafe that was just around the block from my hostel. I ended up getting avocado toast and a vanilla cappuccino, and then I headed to the wildlife zoo so that I could see the animals that are native just to Australia. We started with some kangaroos, some wallabies. I didn't know the difference between the two. Some more kangaroos. These ones we could actually go outside and walk with. Koalas and crocodiles. I tried to see a platypus, but I did not see it in its cage. And then after the zoo, I went to the Sydney Tower Eye, and I got a pretty good view of the entire city, 360 degrees. So this is me just walking around from each window to try and give you the best view of the entire city. Stuff like this doesn't really take that long. It's a couple minutes up and walk around and a couple minutes down. So I don't really know if it's worth the price, but it's a good experience at least once. And then I took a train to Bondi Beach. Halfway there, I stopped for boba. And then I walked all the way down to the beach, which was probably a mistake. And on my way back, I decided to take the bus to the train station. And then I took a train. And then I took another train to get back to the stop where I'm staying. I ended up going to the Vivid Lights show. This was a pretty cool experience, but I feel like this is similar to going to see the Eiffel Tower sparkle at night. You do it once and you don't really necessarily need to do it again. I did end up paying for a river cruise, but I think you could easily just find a good spot on the land to see all of the different show displays. But I'm glad that I can say I've at least done it once. Today's my last full day in Sydney, and I decided to stop at the cafe that was located right next to my hostel. I got pancakes and a coffee that was topped with chocolate. It was very tasty. I decided to go to Watson's Bay to visit a lighthouse, and I didn't do any research beforehand, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't because I wouldn't have been able to see how beautiful this entire area was if I had known that I wouldn't actually be able to see the lighthouse. But it started raining at the end of my hike, so I ended up getting fish and chips, hopping back on the ferry, and heading back to my hostel. And that was where I stayed for the rest of the day, only because I knew that I needed to spend the rest of my time packing things up so that I could get on my 7 a.m. flight to Seoul. So I stayed at the Pacific House Hostel in Woolloomooloo, and it was such a cute little hostel. I ended up staying on the third, well, it was room 300, but it's the fourth floor because they don't count the ground floor as the first floor. But there were 6 beds inside the room, and I ended up taking a bottom bunk because we were given the option to choose our own. I like that there are curtains all around the outside of the bed to give you some privacy. The showers were communal, so you had to leave the room to get to the showers, so everybody on the hall shared the showers. There was a women's shower, and then there was a separate men's shower, and then there were bathrooms that everybody could share for the entire hallway as well, and those were individual. There was also a cute little balcony where